All right, so let's get started. First off, my name is Nigeria Chambers of Big O Belt Media. Rick, it's a pleasure to talk to you today. How you feeling?
You too, my friend. It was good to be here in DC.
Absolutely, yeah. Welcome to the city. And you brought gifts apparently here as I get to check out your new film in Kandahar, which is going to be in theaters May 26th. I just want to start off by saying, man, you certainly make movies that are my cup of tea. And anytime I see your name attached to something, I'm ready to jump at it. And that goes from Greenland, which something else may be coming with that, and then you got Angel is
Something good,
Falling. I
yes.
mean, the list goes on and on. But just for you, man, I would love to know because again, as a fan of yours, it's at some point I feel like we might have been friends in a distant past here. But just for you, what's the excitement and what makes you target these types of films? Like what really gets you going when it comes to like crafting these films?
It's a great question because I feel like there's not many genres that haven't been done before, right? Has there been comic movies? A lot of comic movies. But the thing about Greenland is the script gave us a different point of view. It gave us the human factor, and it was the inside out version of a disaster movie versus the outside in, where all you're doing is watching mindless action. It gave you the emotional thrust of a
Yep.
of a family that we would relate to. How would we deal with that? And then hence the pandemic comes out of nowhere, and we're like, now we're living it for real.
Yeah.
And Kandahar was that for me. When I read Kandahar, I'd kind of stopped looking at anything set in the Middle East. They all felt derivative of one another. And then this script comes along, written by Mitch LaFortune, that reminded me so much of Denis Villeneuve's Sicario. The way Sicario took you in the war on drugs, but it gave you the human factor. It humanized both sides of the equation, so you understood what was going on and how this cycle just keeps continuing today, right? And that's what Kandahar does to the Middle East. It shows you when the war is over and it's the spy game. It's not only the Western point of view. It doesn't treat the rest of the community of the Middle East as cardboard cutouts. It
Yep.
shows you the human factor that they're going through. How a lot of them are just like our people. They're not dictating policy like totalitarian regimes do, or even our Western regimes. They're just sent to enforce policy, and they're trying to get home back to their families just like we are. So the human factor of it was really, really interesting to me, and that's what I wanted to capture.
Yeah, and then you do every single time. And I just immediately finished this film, and there's still a lot of feelings within the film that still really resonate with me, which I would assume is what you want the viewers to do, is to take this film home with you and kind of connect with these characters and the subject matter. And even before I talk specifically about the film, I would love, because as you mentioned emotions and feelings a lot, I have to know about you and Gerard Butler's brotherhood at this point. Now, you all have been a tag team duo again. If I see his name, I'm looking. If I see your name, I'm like, oh yeah, you already know I'm here for this. But just this trust and this bond and this camaraderie you two have had over the years now, and continue to trust one another to bring these stories to life. How would you describe that relationship?
We've become brothers, Jerry and I, and brothers push each other, and it's a good thing, right? We neither one of us want to rest on our laurels. We're both very passionate. We can both be stubborn. Sometimes there's friction, but the good news is out of friction comes great value, right? Because we both live by the best idea wins. How do we solve something that maybe he's not feeling is there yet, or I'm not feeling is there yet? And we'll kind of go through that and then put a smile on our faces because we're pushing each other to hopefully greater heights, and not just phoning it in, so to speak. Neither one of us are into that. And that's a great dance partner, right? It's one thing when you're bringing your own wares and passion to something, but if somebody's not emotionally engaged in it like you are, it's a complete letdown. He had that with other filmmakers. I've had that with actors. So, this chemistry is great, but we definitely push each other. And I think that's an important value.
Yeah, I love that, man. I hope you two continue to make films for many, many, many more years. And yeah, while you bring in this genre, you bring a lot of heart. Let it be known too, when you really want to dive into the action and bringing the action to life, you do it better than the most. And in the second part of this film is where things got super interesting, and I was just wowed at the cinematography, just the whole production, and really bringing together when things got dark, when we had to go to these low light moments. Could you talk about how you and the cast and the crew was able to construct this about 30 minutes of just low light shots, but just the action felt as bright as ever.
Yeah, it was the first thing when I read the script, Basil Iwanyk, the producer who I'd made Greenland with, he also made Sicario. And my big thing to him was, I'm not going to New Mexico. I'm going to the Middle East. If we're going to be authentic, we need to be authentic and we need to be in the real environments. And he says, it's funny you say that because Saudi Arabia is in this huge revolution right now of bringing culture to the kingdom. And they also are very ambitious about filming, right? We were the first major Hollywood motion picture since Lawrence of Arabia to film in Saudi Arabia. And so selfishly, I was all in because you go there and now you're shooting landscapes that have never been seen before. You're not watching the movie and you're like, I've seen that in 15 movies. Oh, they shot at that same thing. I've seen that part right there. This is all virgin territory for cinema purposes. And it was extraordinary. But one of the things that was interesting is I didn't want the deserts to look like the last 20 years of movies where they looked dirty, desaturated, grim. I wanted to show the magnificence of the Middle East. It is an extraordinarily beautiful place. The deserts, the cities, the landscapes. But then how do you show that at night when everything goes complete black? And so it was about shooting in low light in a way that you can really see not a lit area, but see the endless vast desert. The way that my interpretation was, we get our own night vision. If you're in the dark long enough with no ambient light around you, the moonlight will turn into a flashlight. You'll end up seeing into the depths of things. And so we wanted the nighttime to capture that, to capture what would be like to be two men traveling in the dark, sometimes being chased by a shark in the sky. That was a really fun sequence and dangerous and complex sequence to do. But, the helicopter sequence at night was really an interesting kind of tapestry of visuals to put together using night vision for certain things, using new technology like fusion technology, which Gerard Butler's character uses to give you like what would Ansel Adams see at night, to have a black and white vista of the desert. So there's part cosmetic and cinematic purposes for these things, but they're also hopefully capturing the emotional intent of what the scene is. That's everything for me in action. Coming from a former stuntman, when I see a movie and I'm not rooted in it emotionally, it doesn't matter if they put $200 or $300 million up on the screen. Action is just the sake for action is, to me, mindless, and my eyes glaze over. But for me, what makes action unique or movies unique is when you can give the audience an emotional intent and root them in the character's point of view, whether they're thrilled, whether they're scared beyond belief. Now we're experiencing the action with an emotional integrity versus just watching stuff blow up.
Yeah, man. Boy, that's beautifully said. And oh yeah, it's for sure. If there's any part of the film that folks are going to talk about, absolutely that stretch of the film is beautiful, and it is unlike anything I've ever seen. I could not wait to talk to you about that. And for my final question here, I would love to kind of know beyond just the vast different messages that the audience will take from leaving this film and checking it out on May 26th. I would love for you to kind of depict or describe here what you think the theme of this film is, because oddly enough, and again, as a fan of yours, a fan of Gerard Butler's, again, if I see you all's names attached to it, I'm on board for it. But this story felt like it could be something similar to you two's story. I think we see a bond and maybe a makeshift brotherhood that overly gets formed throughout throughout all of the dangers that's happening in this film, just for the betterment of what's at home or what's at stake, or just that building that camaraderie of one another throughout everything, which is a powerful story, especially considering everything that's involved here. But I would just like for you to tell me, if you could describe what is the theme of this film.
There's two things here that I want to unpack. One is I wanted you to experience the human factor in a way of people that you normally don't think you would feel empathy for.
Yeah.
You're suddenly empathetic to, right? The people that we demonize, right? We have a tendency as a society and a world today that will demonize an entire faction of people, whether it be religious, whether it be skin color, whether it be where they're from, versus understanding there are bad actors and bad agents in every sector. But when we can kind of get into the weeds of things and realizing, like Iran, who we're constantly at threat with, that doesn't mean the Iranian people are like their regime. And then we don't understand the revolution going on there, the pushback that they're going through. I wanted to capture that human quality of how we see somebody that's not like us and they look like an alien until we get to know them and we realize they're not so different than I am.
Yep.
That was one big factor for me. The other factor that it's really important with my movies is a lot of people talk about the messages within my movies, but I don't ever want to be like a documentarian. Sometimes maybe gives a little bit more of an opinion, but for me, I'm all about entertainment and I want to hide the peas in the mashed potatoes. So for me, the peas is about showing you a controversial subject matter without my opinion. I'm going to show it to you warts and all. So if I'm going to make prison movies, which I've done, I've been asked, well, what is prison reform? I can't tell you what prison reform is. That's not my job. My job is to show you that violence breeds violence and the incarceration is a necessary evil, but it is imprisoning a lot of people that shouldn't be there. Let's have a conversation. Let's have debate, and debate creates change. And Greenland, the antagonist was a comet, right? It was life or death and how it'll make people behave. And in Kandahar, it's a cycle of violence that continues this day, even when the war is over, it's just beginning again. And that's the antagonist. And it shows you all aspects of the equation to where you go in and you understand maybe a little bit more of the difference between the Taliban and ISIS, where Pakistan comes in, where Iran comes in, what's going on the ground in Afghanistan. What is our own point of view? What is the own point of view of our warriors that have been there for 20 years and now understanding what was it for? Like what was it for? How many people died and were lost because of this? How did I not know my own family? Because I spent more time in theater. This is just showing the pain cycle and the warts and all so that we can understand a little bit better. So then the conversation is more informative versus me showing you what my opinion is.
Well said, Rick. You're a fantastic person. And I quickly would be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity to talk about your upcoming projects. If there's anything you can hint at about this next Greenland film that's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, there's two big movies that we're figuring out the schedules for right now. We always wanted to have Greenland have a companion piece to it. If we had the IP of Dune, we'd be able to shoot them both at the same time. But the idea was always to have the first movie be up to the extinction event. Yeah. And then the second movie is going to be what happens after. It's about the continuation. Who survived? How did they survive? How did they rebuild the planet when the planet's been burnt to the ground? Yeah. So it's going to be this really great new exploration of brand new territory, same characters carrying through. We'll see who made it. We'll see who didn't. And there's this little tiny movie that I'm going to take on called Cliffhanger, that we're going to continue that. We're going to take the nostalgia of the first movie, the way Top Gun Maverick continued on Top Gun. Or also, which I love, I'm really excited about working with Sylvester Stallone because I don't think he gets enough credit for being, one, this huge legend, but how he will humbly pass the torch on to others. The way that he passed this Rocky franchise onto Michael B. Jordan and the Creed franchise, we're doing the same here. This is about the new version of Cliffhanger where Stallone will be there. He's got a daughter now, has a young boy, a son that's, like a pseudo son. All hell breaks loose in the Italian Alps. You know how it goes. We're going to have some fun with the action, but we'll have an emotional attachment and an emotional investment to carry this forward with new characters in a new way.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Now, hopefully we get a chance to talk again, Rick. You just continue to do what you do, man. And you put out fantastic films, and I think, especially as during the pandemic, in a level of uncertainty where we didn't have entertainment to not only provide entertainment, but to also bring back humanity when we were all torn apart in a moment of not knowing what's going to be next. And keep going with it, man. I'm gonna keep tuning in. I'm gonna keep doing what I can to kind of get folks to get out there. And right now, folks, you got to go check out the new film Kandahar, which is going to be in theaters May 26th. Rick, it's been a pleasure today.
I'm just gonna give you the last pitch. We need everybody's help. After the pandemic, the theater business is very different now, and we used to be the cool movie going into the weekend as a big action movie, but now we're the underdogs. And I want to go see Fast 10. I want to go see the big animated pictures, but these movies are dying on the vine and very well could be, sequestered to streaming. So, we need people to go grab a tub of popcorn, have a good time, and carry these movies forward. Hopefully Kandahar is a part of that legacy, but I love date night. I love going to the movie theaters. I love adult-driven movies. Hopefully Kandahar can be a part of that.
And I will add a little bit to that, is that this should be shown in theaters, folks.
Okay.
It is nonstop action, 2 hours of it. As we mentioned, a lot of heart, but by all means, you're gonna be on the edge of your seat. There's twists, there's turns. It's a visual spectacle, and the cinematography is amazing. I'm telling you, once you get into that second act, you better have used the bathroom, do everything you else had to do, because it gets amazing. Rick, it's been a pleasure today, buddy.
You too. Thank you for the interview. Great stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks, my friend.